Let's talk about Booker, the protagonists, the hero, the ultimate egocentric. In games, when we have a fixed protagonist, we are usually expected to identify ourselves with him or her. This is either achieved by making us care about the character and his struggle. Lee in The Walking Dead is a great example. We can identify with him. We feel with him. We understand how much he cares about Clementine, about his desperation. We spend a lot of time with him, and thus we reach a point where we clearly can identify with Lee. Or it can be achieved by making the game avatar a representation of ourselves. Shepard, taken by herself, is the least interesting character in Mass Effect. Because she is pretty much us. We decide. We do have direct control. But during all the decisions we make, through her or him, we will start to identify with Shepard a lot. She is our hand within the Mass Effect universe. She is us. Booker is a very different kind, and in my opinion, we are actually not supposed to identify with him. For one, he is an ass. Throughout his life, he has been an egocentric dick, a murderer, a sellout, blaming everyone else, never really standing up for himself. He has been, and remains to the end, a complete egocentric. And let's not even start to talk about what happens when Booker thinks he has become something special. In fact, the more the game went on, the more detached I felt towards him. Some say that in the ending they felt detached from Booker or even the game completely because he was just being led around. In fact, we were being led around by him and his lies for the whole duration of the game. I think this is by design. We look at Booker, we don't see ourselves. The man sold his baby daughter to a weird man, a complete stranger. We are never given a good enough explanation for why he did that. And how could we? It is something inexcusable in our minds. We went to Columbia to save Elizabeth. Booker never did. He went there to save himself, and he never cared at what cost. So, do I think Booker is an evil person? Or even a bad character? No, not at all. He's a great character. He is so human. He's so human, so flawed, that he makes a great protagonist for this story. But to me, at least, I'm just a victim to him. Someone else he used and abused to make him achieve his goal, which he never bothered to tell us. Some call him a deep and wounded character. And yes, he is. But he is still an ass. And he remains one even after the game. You can't feel pity for him. And when he tried to save little Anna, I really felt for him. But I doubt many of us identified ourselves with him. Some people have had reservations for the ending of Bioshock Infinite. They said it felt rushed and was not fleshed out enough. Again, I feel this is by design, and we were supposed to feel that way. Because Booker rushed through it. Once the ending starts, we are completely detached from any sense of control. We have become powerless. We have no decision to make. We can just watch Booker and are left with our thoughts. People also say that Elizabeth's character loses her appeal in the end, because she becomes a god or Time Lord, or something along that road. She becomes unemotional and her development stops right then and there. Again, I think this is by design, and actually an amazing piece of character consistency and development. For one, I don't buy the god thing. Only because she can see more. It does not make her a god. It does not destroy her emotions. She has not transcended. She can see all the possibilities. That alone does not make her superhuman. Let's try to see it from her perspective. She has lived pretty much her whole life imprisoned in a statue. She knows she has some kind of special powers. She knew she was different. The missing fingertip only a physical representation about how she felt about herself. Among the first things she says is,
"Why? Why did they put me in here? What am I? What am I?"
And later she refers to herself as an abomination. She is caught up in things much bigger than herself, in which she has absolutely no control, but somehow ended up standing in the middle of everything. Imagine being someone who grew up so sheltered, being experimented on, being put in a situation where you have to murder someone. We, the players, might consider the act fully justifiable. At that point it was either that or let Fitzroy murder a child. But we did not take the shot. Elizabeth is the one who actually committed the murder. Her hands struck the scissors into Fitzroy's body. She was covered in Fitzroy's blood. And then she gets tortured. We are not sure for how long, but it may have been for months. After all, what happened? She was caught and tortured. She tries to be brave. She tries to be strong. Remember the first thing you hear in the game?
Booker, are you afraid of God?
No. But I'm afraid of you.
We didn't know what it meant. Foreshadowing? Sure. Of what kind? We didn't know. And by everything we did know of, did think we knew before we actually played the game, we thought Booker was possibly right to feel that way. But now we know what happened to her. We are seeing her breaking down. She is so scared and feels so helpless. Suddenly all the dark thoughts of her being a monster seeming to have come true. Just wanting some kind of comfort. And you, the player, wants to tell her. But we are not the protagonists. We are just the viewer in this. Booker, like in the best of his days, completely egocentric, showing no empathy or understanding of any kind, has the lead.
Booker, are you afraid of God?
No. But I'm afraid of you.
And so her doom is spoken, and you can see it in her eyes. Her courage in everything that happens afterwards is both astonishing and inspiring. To me, she is the only heroic figure in the game. Evolving from a damsel in distress that many see in her, to a very brave young human facing an eternity of circular torment. She knows she can't escape. Elizabeth is literally the sacrificial lamb to Booker's ego. So, how does the game end? What is my interpretation of it? I have already given some clues, but I first want to mention a different possibility. In Buddhism, the soul goes through countless reincarnations, each time trying to clean itself from all negative karma, being reborn and hopefully manage to do good while avoiding committing more sins. So through a series of reincarnations, a soul becomes more and more enlightened until it reaches the point of transcendence, when it becomes Buddha. This is a very possible interpretation of what happens in this game. It is not my interpretation, but I feel it should be mentioned, because I think Infinite draws very much from Buddhist philosophy. You might also consider that everything that happens in the game only happens in Booker's mind while he is dying. He tries to put everything back into place as his sanity is slowly fading away, thus resulting in the many contradictions the game has. But now, what I actually think. Originally, I thought this was the most bitter happy ending in any game I played. But honestly, right now, I don't think it is a happy ending at all. For it to be a happy ending, even a bitter one, it would need to mean that Booker has broken the circle. We assume he did, but we have absolutely no evidence of this actually happening. Booker's solution is to turn back time, undo everything. Not considering that this will destroy Elizabeth. It will erase her from existence. She will never even have been. A thought that never entered the mind of our Mr. Empathy. This would very probably result in exactly the circle he wants to avoid, since the only way he can change it is with Elizabeth. But if Elizabeth never existed, how could he manage that? And even if you think, no, this works, it just does, fine. But this will not change one other thing. If it really happened that way, wouldn't that mean that Booker also lost any memories from everything he learned? Wouldn't that mean that Booker is still the alcoholic good-for-nothing that sells his baby girl to a strange man? Or at least is capable of such an act? Yes, I can really see the bright future for poor Anna right there. So even under the best of circumstances, the ending is bittersweet at best. I don't think Booker has escaped the circle. We have evidence that he's not the only Booker who got so far. And from all we know, it is extremely probable that every single one of them came to the same conclusion: not to solve the problem at hand, but trying to turn back time. And they all failed. Remember what he actually wanted to achieve this whole time? Save his daughter. His daughter was right there with him all the time. He just needed to accept what happened, everything he did, and then just save her. Now, not in some imaginary past where everything afterwards would just turn out to be perfect. Life does not work that way, not even fairy tales do. He was so egocentric, in fact, that he never really cared for Anna or Elizabeth. He thought about what he lost, what he could regain. If it weren't so, he would have taken his daughter, Elizabeth, in his arm and saved her, thus breaking the cycle. People say the little bit after the credits is proof of the happy ending. But is it? In my opinion, it actually proves nothing. We don't know when this is. Is Anna really there? Is it before she was sold? We don't know. For all we know, it could just be the start of the next turn around the circle. The one thing we do know is that Booker tried to solve the dilemma by not having to face it, just having all his sins erased. Do you think? Do you really think this was the right choice? The game is called Infinite, isn't it? Now we might say this is an overtly negative view on this game, and it's very pessimistic. Maybe. But to me, it's, while being very, very sad, it's also very inspiring. For one, just because of the fact that there is a big game like this. I mean, I'm not a big fan of the original Bioshock. I liked it. But this game actually touched me. It actually made me think a lot about it. And this makes it very, very special to me. And this is not something I can say of any other game I've played for a very long time. So maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. In the end, who cares? The great thing about Bioshock Infinite is that every one of us can draw his own conclusions, can look past the very small amount of stuff we know for fact, and can go on and wander around and get a completely different understanding of what we saw. Please allow me this one fanboy moment before I will wrap this video up for now. Because I somehow, since I finished the game and started to think about it, I've always felt the need to say one thing. Because Booker's an idiot. I'm sorry, Elizabeth. You didn't deserve any of this. Thank you for watching.